Welcome back. Okay, Mark, let me start off with you. I want to know your personal stance on this. What do you think? You've told me what Ugandans feel about the law, but I want to know what you think about the law.
The law here in Uganda, me personally, well, personally, excuse me, personally, I'm very much opposed to this law because I believe it discriminates against a group of people. I heard the gentleman in the studio. He before the break he used the word discrimination to explain a feeling I understand. I think he said Western countries discriminate when they start saying we are willing to give you aid, but only on this condition or only on that condition if you listen to us. I think you can also use the word discrimination, I would say, to describe the law here in Uganda. Western countries, when they stop their aid to Uganda, they try to make clear that they are not trying to dictate Ugandans. Ugandans now say, we are sovereign, you cannot tell us what to do. And then the reply from the American ambassador in Kampala is, the US is also a sovereign country. We are not dictating what you should do. We are only saying that it is up to us to decide what we do with our money, if we want to give it to you or to someone else. So I think I understand both sides. I do understand that Ugandans see that as the US trying to influence them and trying to dictate them. I do understand that perspective from Ugandans. But strictly when it comes to the law, no, I don't agree with it.
Oh, okay. All right, so let's make things a bit clearer for you guys. Some harsh responses have been gotten. Austria, for example, said it was reviewing its assistance to Uganda, and Denmark said it was diverting 9 million of development aid away from the Ugandan government. And Norway said it will hold back 8 million of its support. And Washington, one of Uganda's largest donors, is also reviewing its aid agreements with Uganda. Now, with these reviews, Uganda's health program might suffer a setback as the World Bank is already delaying $90 million loan to Uganda's health ministry. So there's going to be a lot of people affected, not just the government. So what do you make of this, Mark?
Yes, I think the World Bank so far is the only one who is withholding aid that is, all the aid that is being frozen is supposed to go to the government, yes. But indeed, the World Bank money is then supposed to go to healthcare. So yes, I think there is some concern about how that is going to affect people within Uganda. And I think the World Bank and those donors first want to see government withdraw that law. I think that is very unlikely to happen. So yes, there are concerns about healthcare, certainly.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Mark, for that. Mr. Wahab, I'm sure you heard all that Mark has said. And I'm pretty much sure you have some reactions. What would you like to say to that?
Well, I think it's very unfair to tie the issue of age to this law, and that if you continue in the direction of enacting this law, we will withdraw it. I think that is totally unacceptable. I think you find out what's the essence of this aid in the first instance. This aid is meant to promote growth and development. It's also to ensure that there is sustainable development in the long run. So if that is the overall objective of the aid that you furnish, if that aid is not tied with some apron strings, if it is designed to further developmental aspirations, then why will you then want to withdraw it? Because a country exercises its right to go to heaven the way it wants, to make its own laws, or in conformity with its sovereign status. So I think, by and large, we must recognize the fact that part of the developmental process is respect for fundamental rights. And when we are even talking of fundamental rights, these rights are not absolute. They are never absolute anywhere. You understand what I'm saying? Your right.
But won't you say the same thing about culture?
Your right to smoke, for instance, ends where my nose begins.
But won't you say the same thing about culture? That culture is not absolute in itself, it is relative. So
Yes.
right now, if this is the culture saying that this is the way it has been, this is the way it should be, and this is the way it will be, is also flawed in that sense?
No, I think what there are certain, standards that all African, countries are agreed upon, based on our history, based on the peculiarities of our circumstances, our culture. There are certain, standards that we conform to. For instance, it's totally unacceptable. Homosexuality is un-African. You understand me? It's something that is alien to us. It's something that we find totally reprehensible. Some will say even satanic. And and then when you ask us to now descend to the, level of, a man associating with a man, a relationship between a man and a man, and that kind of thing, which is homosexuality.
Okay.
You are trying to, equate us with beast.
Okay.
You understand me? And that, I think, is understandable.
Let me interrupt you there.
Yes.
I think it's important we talk about the implementation of the law. Now, Mark, do you see the anti-gay law creating more problems or otherwise?
You mean for
the
Uganda as a
people,
country,
yeah.
regarding donors?
No, Uganda as a
For
country.
Uganda as a country.
The people in Uganda, yes.
Yeah, but you mean homosexual people, or
Both homosexual and non-homosexuals. When we're talking about the implementation of the law, so how the people on ground carry out the law, execute the law.
Exactly, because it affects everybody.
well, in fact, when it comes to homosexual people here, the law, and I've heard this from several reliable sources within European embassies in Kampala, that Ugandan police has received orders from its own government not to implement this law too harshly, probably because the government doesn't really want to have too much incidents and chaos. So I have so far not yet heard of very many incidents towards homosexual people in Uganda. I think the bigger fear is not so much about the police, but in general day-to-day life, that people may take the law into their own hands, feel encouraged by this law, and, for instance, start blackmailing a neighbor who may be homosexual or who you suspect to be homosexual. So that is in regard to homosexual people. Well, for the other big majority of Ugandans, well, yes, I think there's a sense of almost pride that we as Ugandans are resisting against these Western countries, and we're not doing as they want. Then there is a tiny minority of Ugandans, mainly in Kampala, who are concerned that this clash with Western countries will negatively affect the country's image abroad and maybe also financially in the longer run.
Oh, okay.
Let me ask this. Thank you so much, Mr. Mark. Now, let me ask you this, Mr. Wahab. Now, the international community, they have argued or defended that in withdrawing these aids, it is not necessarily for their own good, that, in quote, they are fighting for the greater good or for the greater cause. The same people that, are saying that, oh, why are they cutting down the aids or why are they throwing down the sanctions, are the same people that they are fighting for, in quote, in withdrawing these aids. It's really not for themselves. What would you say to that?
Well, they cannot be fighting for these same people. They cannot claim, they cannot afford to be more royal than the king. They don't understand our history. They don't understand our values. They don't understand the peculiarities of our circumstances. They don't understand our rationale for this argument. For this opposition. It is he who wears the shoe that knows why it pinches. So they cannot dictate to us what is good for us. In the final analysis, we are saying that this law, this anti-gay law, this homosexuality, offends common sense. That's the Africans. They believe that it is something that is totally offensive to their values. And when you are talking of fundamental rights, breach of fundamental rights, what rights? Is it rights that encourages impunity, that encourage abnormal behavior, or that encourage nuisance behavior?
Okay.
The way we perceive it offends our sensibilities.
Okay.
And we're entitled.
We can certainly go on,
Thank you
but
very
I
much.
just want
Thank
I just want final words. So, Mark, do you have any final words to say to add to this discussion?
Briefly, Mark, briefly.
Mark?
Yes, I would want to see where this continues. I think the main thing for now is to wait and see what the U.S. government will come up with in its donor relationship with Uganda. That's the thing to watch right now, I think.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mark, and thank you very much,
I think my final word is that the U.S. and other foreign powers should treat this issue with understanding,
Okay.
respect for our values, and they should also, be mindful of respect for international law, the right of Ugandans, and indeed any other African country to go to heaven the way it was, including enacting laws that will best serve its interest.
We could certainly go on and on, but we have to stop here. But remember, the conversation continues online. So let's go back online and start tweeting and sending Facebook messages or email. Next week on the program, we'll be discussing insurgents in Nigeria. Do you think the Nigerian government is doing enough to curb the spate of killings by Boko Haram?
And be a part of the program next week by sending your tweets or video comments to our various social media pages. We'd love to hear from you. So keep those tweets coming, beg your pardon, and your video comments and emails.
Remember, you are the reason this show exists, so we want you to set the pace of the conversation. Bye for now.